everybody, and welcome back to another episode of From BA to Broadway. You know who it is. It's me. It's Mr. Brennan Stefanik, and I'm bringing you those general programming reminders. Folks, every Monday we are here with the main episodes. Every Friday we are here with our mini-series In the Spotlight. And I just wanted to give another quick thank you to all of you who came out to BroadwayCon to see us. It was so much fun, and we loved meeting all of y'all. It was a blast. So stay tuned for that episode. Should be coming out in both audio and video in a couple weeks. So keep an eye out on our socials. But that's enough about that. That's not why we're here today, folks. Today, we are here with the one and only Kim Onah. Kim, what is going on?
Hi.
Welcome to the pod.
I'm so happy to be on the pod.
Welcome. How's life? How's things?
Things are good. I'm
Nice.
a little under the weather. So the voce is not giving as it normally is, but that's okay.
Kim, who are you and what the heck do you do?
Oh, wow. So I'm Kim Onah, obviously, and I'm an actor, singer, do a little bit of writing, and yeah. Right now I'm unemployed, so I'm like leaning into all of my hobbies. Woo!
Yeah.
Which is watching a lot of reality TV.
I love that. Are you watching Traders?
I am. Oh my
Okay.
gosh.
Okay.
And because I'm so bad at waiting for the next episode to come out, I've been watching. I realized I didn't watch the first season of the US Traders.
Okay.
So I'm watching that right now too.
Amazing. I have been recently instructed to watch the UK version because I've never watched it, but
You must.
yeah, I'm like conceptually, since it's just regular people, that seems even better to me. So I really got to get on that.
Well, that's what I'm loving about the first season is they're doing like a mixture of both, like regular people and reality stars. And I find that really interesting. But I truly think its best form is when they're just normal people who actually like could benefit from the money.
Yeah. Also, they're not theater people who are playing mafia left or right, you know?
Exactly.
So this is high stakes, high stress for them, too, because they can't trust anyone. I love it.
100%.
Oh, okay. That's going to be my next watch. It's on the list for sure.
Do it.
Kim, the second question is usually, how do we know each other?
Okay. So is it through actor therapy?
Technically, yes. It's through actor therapy. We have like oodles of mutuals, so I'm sure we would have met eventually. But yeah, it was through actor therapy.
Oh my gosh. How fun.
Yeah.
Ryan Scott Oliver and Lindsay Mendez, actor therapy.
Yeah. Kim, did you go to school for theater?
I did not.
Whoa, but you've been on Broadway. Crazy.
So crazy. No, I didn't go to school for theater, although I will say I did want to go to school for theater.
Okay.
I did. But both of my parents are immigrants. My mom's from Jamaica, my dad's from Nigeria, and so they didn't really know. They don't really have an idea of what pursuing theater as a career is.
For sure.
Growing up, they were kind of against me going to a program. I remember I really wanted to audition for LaGuardia for high school because I'm from New York. I'm a New York native.
Amazing.
And they were just kind of like, no, what? And so when it came to college, it was definitely not an option. But, looking back now, I'm actually really happy that my path played out the way it did. I loved where I went to school and I loved the people that I met through it. And I also just loved like digging into things that didn't involve theater.
Yeah. What did you study?
I studied English Lit. So
oh my God.
Theater adjacent.
Of course.
Yeah. But, I went to a liberal arts school.
And what was that school, Kim?
That was Harvard.
Yeah, it was.
Oh, gosh. My response now to people is like, when they're like, oh my God, you went to Harvard. I do the Legally Blonde. What? Like, it's hard?
Yeah, truly.
But yeah, I went to Harvard, and at Harvard, you have to do a certain number of required courses. So I did do stuff outside of English Lit, which was nice. And yeah, it was a really good time. I did a lot of a cappella.
Oh, a cappella culture. No way. Amazing. What was the a cappella scene like at Harvard?
Oh my God. It was so insane and so competitive. And looking back, I'm like, why did we waste all of our time being so intense about this? But yeah, it was just like, it was our world. So
I went to UMass, and I did not participate in a cappella myself, but it was very much a big a cappella scene. It
Yes.
honestly it was really pitch perfect. It was. You
It
had to like
literally
your
was.
premier all-girl group, your premier all-boy group, and then a bunch of other groups, and it was cutthroat for literally no reason
For no
whatsoever.
reason. Oh
Yeah.
my God. We went to see Pitch Perfect as an a cappella group. We went
Amazing.
together and we ate it up. It was so good.
To this day, that is unironically and a little bit ironically my favorite movie of all time. And I will say that so proudly. It is
You
so
should.
good. Thank you. Thank you. You're right. You're right. You're right. Oh, I digress.
Yeah.
So were you doing theater when you were young? Were you pursuing the arts as a youngin?
I was not. I mean, well, I sang. I was a
Mhm.
singer. So I was pursuing it from that angle, but I
Mhm.
didn't really know that I wanted to do theater until, my mom took me to my first Broadway show.
Ah.
My first Broadway show was actually Cats the Musical when I was really little.
Whoa.
But I didn't like it at the time. I was
Yeah,
like young. I didn't know what was happening.
for
I was
sure.
like, this feels scary to
Yeah,
me.
it was. That's because it was.
It was. And then my second Broadway show was Aida,
Oh my God. Wow.
Elton John and Tim Rice.
Of course, of
And
course.
yeah, I just fell in love with it. And I think like that's when I sort of realized I wanted to do something like that.
Gotcha.
So yeah, I had always sung, and after seeing that, I was like, I kind of want to play on stage too. This
Yeah.
looks really fun. So my parents put me in like a few theater camps on
Mhm.
Staten Island, and so that's sort of the extent to which I did theater.
Gotcha.
And then in high school, I did theater a little bit. I went to an all-girls Catholic high school.
Amazing.
So yeah, so we had to do theater with our brother's school, and so I got into theater there. And then when I went to college, I was like, this is what I want to do, I think. This
Yeah,
is
yeah, yeah.
exactly what I want to do. So I did it extracurricularly there.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Great. I love that. So then what the heck happened? How did you end up where you are? Did you
Yeah.
start auditioning right out of college and just threw that English degree to the side?
Yeah, I threw my English degree away. I think like when I graduated, my parents were they weren't unsupportive, but they were definitely not wanting me to pursue
Of course.
theater. So to sort of appease them and make them happy, after I graduated, I like stayed in Boston for a year, and I did I worked at a random 9 to 5.
Love.
And then on the side, I was doing some theater in and around Boston. Do you know Concord Umbrella?
I do. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, I did a show there.
Amazing.
And then I did a show at the Pavilion in Boston. And yeah, after doing those 2 shows, I was just kind of like, I was dipping my toe in the water. I
Yeah.
like didn't have a resume because I
Of
didn't,
course.
all I
Yeah.
did was like random theater at college, in college extracurricularly. And so, yeah, I was like, let me just dip my toe in the water. Let me feel it out.
Yeah.
And by the end of that year, I was just like, I got to move. I got to do it.
Gotcha.
So,
Yeah.
and I made the move 2016, moved back to New York. And yeah, I just like, I started with AT actually. I started with acting
Amazing.
therapy.
Okay, great. I was going to say, how did you kind of find the how to do it of it all, entering kind of completely blind in the career aspect of it all?
I think I was like, okay, I know I can sing. So let me like try and use that to meet people. So I started actually taking voice lessons from Lizzie Mendez.
Amazing.
And she was great because she was like, kind of being my life coach, but also kind of teaching me better ways to sing. And she was like, you should do this thing called actor therapy that me and this guy named Ryan Scott Oliver do. And so, yeah, I went to a class and I was like, okay, this is a great sort of vehicle for me to find my way to auditions. And because I didn't know how to audition, I didn't take an audition class. I didn't know how to audition.
For sure.
I didn't know how to show up at an audition. There's this funny story where because I'm from New York, my mom had sent me this playbill listing while I was in college. I think it was like my sophomore year of college. And she was like, they're doing this show called Fame. Like, you loved that movie. Like, you should audition. So I took a train down to New York and decided to audition. It was snowing that weekend, so
Oh, we love it.
that impacted my clothing, my attire. I was like, okay, obviously they know it's snowing, so I showed up in my disgusting rain boots and
Nice.
like a black long sleeve tee and a pair of jeans.
Great.
And walked into the room. I sang, oh my God, this song. What's that song from Fame? Sometimes I wonder where I've been. Oh gosh, I forget the name of the song. But
Yep. Nonetheless,
yes, sang that song, and they seemed to love it. But they were just so confused by like how I had shown up to this audition, like in these ratty clothes and just looking disheveled.
Come on, it was gross outside. They also had to walk there. What the hell?
How dare you? So the casting director pulled me aside after the audition, and he was like, "Great job in there, but like I think you have a lot to learn." I think you have a lot to learn about auditioning. Like, definitely next time, bring a change of clothes or something, and have a nice day.
Great.
It was just like it was so hilarious. I was like, oh yeah, there are rules. There are things that you have to learn.
Well, are there? That's crazy.
So silly.
I mean, that was very nice that they did that and took you aside to say that, but still wild. Come on now.
So I learned a lot about those things in actor therapy, and just met a lot of like-minded artists who, became my community. And, once you establish a community, I feel like it's so much easier to feel confident and to feel settled and to feel like you can actually do things in this industry.
Absolutely vital. It is truly our lifeblood in trying to navigate this crazy, crazy world.
Yeah.
This feels like it's a silly question, but was there a lot of like imposter syndrome at the start?
Oh my gosh. Yes.
As if there isn't always imposter syndrome.
Right.
Yeah.
It was at the fore for sure. It was kind of like, who do I think I am?
Yeah.
Trying to do this when there are people who like for the last 5 years they've studied this. They've gone to school for this and have committed to. It felt like I wasn't committing because I hadn't gone to school and I hadn't studied, and so a lot of imposter syndrome.
For sure. Did you like start working in New York? Did you start doing New York stuff first? Did you enter the regional market? Like, what was your professional journey from like the beginning of it?
I think for the first year or so, it was a lot of like small New York, like off Broadway.
Of course.
Things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This performance in this random warehouse in Brooklyn, or I did a lot of concert stuff. I did a lot of the New York Theater Festival stuff. So that was fun. And then my first like big professional union job was a regional gig. It was, oh gosh, the Buddy Holly story.
Oh, okay.
That was like my first like big thing that I was doing, and we did it out in Long Island, Northport.
Oh yeah.
Theater. So that was really fun, and that I learned a lot about like how it works on that job, and how to be an actor, and how to be just a good human in a space with other actors. And it was very informative.
That's amazing. Have you had that moment where like you've kind of been like the imposter syndrome has kind of washed away a little bit and you're like, oh no, like this is my place, like this is my world and community, and like I'm a part of this,
Yeah. I think during that first job, I think a lot of the work is just about being curious and about being hardworking and just trying to learn as much as possible and put what you learn into action. And so I feel like because I'm a type A personality, I tend to, I'm a hard worker. I'm specific. I look at the details and I learn from things. And so it's just like, I think bringing those things to any experience is useful. And so being able to bring those skills to like my first rehearsal process made me feel like, okay, I can do this. And and even if I haven't studied this all my life, I can learn and I can do. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like
for
at the
sure, for
very
sure.
least, I can like take something in and do it. And
Yeah.
so there were moments where I was like, okay, I got this. I
Hell
can do this.
yeah. I love
So
that.
yeah, it was really nice.
Once you started like booking more frequently, like did you feel as though there was like anything specific attributing to that? Like was it just showing up to EPAs? Did you start like meeting people and like
Yeah.
being a familiar face and stuff like that? Did you have one of those random, oh, I met this person and then everything changed kind of thing?
I think it was definitely about who I met
Hmm.
and who I connected with. There are a lot of people who I feel like in this industry can just meet a casting director and the next time they see them they're best friends, and
Yeah,
that's just like not my vibe. I'm a
totally.
little shy. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm definitely outgoing, but I am a little bit shy, so
of
it's
course.
like I'm not going to go up to a casting director and be like, "Hey, girl, like,
Yeah.
how are you?" You know what I mean? But I do feel like when I did meet a casting director, I made sure to go to the auditions that the casting director was holding, and that was just the repetition was
Gotcha.
important for me. I also feel like knowing people through actor therapy was really helpful.
Totally.
Like, I think spas got me my first audition for Book of Mormon.
Oh
Like,
my God.
yeah. And I think that was one of my first or second or third Broadway auditions. And
Yeah.
it was like one of those moments where I was like, oh wow, okay, this just happened for me because
Yeah.
I like have this relationship with this person. And so I think that was a huge part of it. Just meeting people, making
Hmm.
an impression on them and keeping up with them.
Totally. Did you ever have like an aha moment or one of those moments of advice where like the auditions like really started getting easier and stuff where you're like, oh no, I think I know how I fit into this world and like what I have to do or how
Um,
I personally have to navigate it to just be successful, at least feel successful exiting the room?
yeah, that took me a long time to
Yeah.
get to, I think. And I think because I tied all of my success, like I feel like if I felt confident about an audition, I would expect a callback or I would expect a booking. Like that
Okay.
was how my brain worked. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, I put in the effort and I worked hard and I was successful,
Hmm.
then that success should translate to a positive outcome.
Yeah.
Like, isn't this how it works? And that's just not how it works.
Nope.
It's like you
No.
can, it's just you can do your absolute best work
Hmm.
and it can mean absolutely nothing because they're just not looking for that. And
Yeah.
so once I realized that, I was able to sort of get myself into a mind space where I was like leaving the audition feeling good,
Gotcha.
regardless of if like the ultimate outcome was I got it or I got a call
Hmm.
back or I booked, you know?
For
And I
sure.
still really have to remind myself that.
Yeah.
But yeah, there have been so many instances where I have bombed an audition
Hmm.
and I've gotten the callback or I've gotten the gig. You know what I mean?
Amazing. Yeah.
It's just like it makes no sense. And
Totally.
you just have to remember that you need to bring. I'm not saying that people should bomb their auditions,
Oh,
but
I mean, listen, it happens, but we're
it
not
happens.
trying for it for sure.
Right, right. But I just feel like you just have to show up as your best self and you have to know that what you have to offer is amazing regardless of what they're looking for.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So yeah, it took
I
me a
love
long
that.
time to get there.
I mean, for sure. It's the name of the game, you know? It really is.
Yeah.
Once you started like auditioning for things and getting callbacks and getting work and stuff, did you find yourself falling into like a type of any sort, like where was typecasting playing a role in how you were viewing yourself as an actress?
Yeah, I do. I feel like because for most of my auditions for a while, I was singing White Boys from Hair, which is like
Amazing.
such a specific. It's just because it feels really good to sing, and
Yeah.
vocally, it's like where I love to live.
Hmm.
But it definitely put me in the box of like Apollo singer, you know what I
Her.
mean? Like, or like Black woman bringing the house down, you know what
Yeah.
I mean? So,
Beltress extraordinaire.
yeah, Black Beltress. Like,
Yeah.
that's kind of what the vibe was for a while.
Hmm.
And I think I was like, oh, is this all I have to offer to the
Yeah.
industry? Because there are also parts of me that love to sing like soprano, and there are parts of me that love to bring out my ingenue, and so that it just felt like I was being put into a specific box that had a lot more to do with the color of my skin and maybe the tone of my voice, the
Yeah, for sure.
timbre of my voice, than it did with who I felt I was.
Yeah.
So
No,
it was
totally.
like very like, wow, wait, who am I actually? I had
Yeah.
to really come to terms with like, I had to really figure out who I was as an actor and
For
who I
sure,
wanted
for
to
sure. Yeah. Was there a moment, has there been a moment yet where that's kind of switched and you're like, okay, like my foot is in the door. Now it's time to change some perceptions, you know?
Yes, definitely. Like once I developed more of a relationship with casting directors, like, I feel like they got to know me as a person, and
Gotcha.
I was able to show them with the material I brought into the room in a first sort of appointment and the stuff that
Yeah.
I was seeing for my book, that there were other parts of me that I maybe wanted to show off more.
Heard.
And I feel like I was sort of being put more into the ingenue calls, and
Yeah.
that was just like, that was sort of what I was wanting. I was wanting to feel like
Good.
I could play those roles.
For sure, for sure. I feel like, especially in actor therapy, like the thing that really always hits home that Ryan talks about is like, yes, like there's going to be typecasting, and there are things that you may not expect that you do better than everyone else, but like use it, get your foot in the door, and then show
Yes.
them what else you could do.
100%. And like once they know you, I do feel like there's an opportunity for them to even want to get to see different sides of you. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's not, you don't really have to force them to see it. They just sort of, they're like, oh wait, we love this girl. Maybe she can do this, and maybe she can do X, Y, and Z, and let's ask her if she has that in her book. Or I saw her post this thing on Instagram. You know what I mean? Like they start
Yeah.
following you on Instagram, and it's like they see other sides of you, and it's great.
Were you putting a lot of performance stuff on Instagram? Did you find that like a tool that you were using?
I did. I mean, again, actor therapy, Ryan, I just hear his voice in my head being
Oh, yeah.
like, put your stuff online.
Mhm.
And I do feel like I definitely wanted to do it from a place of like, this brings me joy, and I
Yeah.
kind of want to do stuff that reminds me that why I do the things I do, because I actually love to sing and I love to perform.
For sure.
So that's sort of how it started for me. I just wanted to sing, and I
That
wanted
seems to
sing
be like the
that I-
mantra of like posting your stuff on Instagram nowadays. It's like everyone's always like, I don't normally do this because it makes me uncomfortable, but
Yeah.
I sang this and it brought me joy, so here it is. It's either
Yes.
that or it's like, I just made my 54 below debut. Here you go, you know?
Oh
It
my
feels
God.
like it's always like one of the two, but like it is so real, you know? It is. That's a
Yeah.
very vulnerable kind of space. And like, I feel like Instagram is truly just like a resume tool at this point for folks to get to know you and like the things that you can't put on your resume kind of stuff. So
Exactly. I actually got my first agent had messaged me on Instagram, and at first I thought it was like, I didn't know who he was, so I was like,
Mhm.
okay, I'm not going to respond to this. And then I saw him at one of those like pay to play,
Yeah.
a growing studio, I think it was, like a growing studio agent class.
Totally.
And I was like, oh my God, that's the guy that messaged me. How cool. And I looked up his agency, and
Mhm.
he ended up being my first agent. So
Heard.
yeah, it was like,
Yeah.
it was kind of a nice validation, because the things that I put on Instagram are just things that, like, to your point, speak
Yeah.
to me. And I'm like, oh, that felt fun. Let me post this.
For sure. For
Um,
sure.
So it's cool that he found me that way.
Yeah. At what point in your career did that happen? Did you get your first agent and start doing that kind of thing?
I think it was a couple years into my time back in New York. I think
Gotcha.
it was like 2 years in. And yeah, I was just like kind of tired of the showing up to the EPAs, going
Yeah.
really early, and
Mhm.
the ECCs. And yeah, and I was like, this feels like the next step.
Totally.
And this feels like it could help me get in more rooms. And so
Were you doing a lot of the pay to play situation?
I was. There
Yeah.
was there was a year where that's like all I did.
Heard.
Like the growing studio, like one-on-one.
Mhm.
Yeah, actor therapy had some stuff
Yeah.
too. Yeah, and look, to be honest, I don't think pay to play is like the end all be all. I don't think you need to do pay to play, but I learned quite a lot
Heard.
about myself, and I learned like a lot about how I show up in a room, and I just got some, like, obviously you take everything with a grain of salt and you take what you need and you leave the rest, but there were a lot of things that I took with me and that I feel like helped me
Heard.
grow.
Yeah, it is one of those tricky things where it is like, yes, you're paying for this, so like, and you're not always going to get a result, but at the end of the day, you are getting put into a space that you wouldn't otherwise be in a more intimate kind of more time worth setting, you know? So
Yeah,
it's one of those tricky things about this here business that we do, but
it is. It really is.
yeah.
I felt like those were even harder than auditions because it's like you have the people behind the table and then you have your peers. You have like other actors who are like kind of listening in on your audition. You know what I mean? And that felt...
And you're paying money for it too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You're paying so much money.
Oh, weird.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we love it. We love
We
it.
love it.
We sure do. Wow.
Best.
Okay. So then what point did Broadway come into the picture? And like once you started working, was Broadway the dream?
Yes.
Okay.
Definitely.
Heard.
Because it just seemed like the epitome of success.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, my relationship with success is really, I'm still working on it. I'm still figuring it out. And I think having done 2 Broadway shows now, I've learned that Broadway doesn't necessarily mean success.
Mm-hmm.
And don't get me wrong, I'm very proud of myself and I'm proud of the work that I've done. But, you know, it's just like we're always chasing something.
Totally. Totally.
But yeah, my first Broadway show came at a time where I feel like everybody says this and it sounds cliche, but it actually came at a time where I was contemplating whether or not I wanted to stay in this industry. Yeah, it's just like, I was 29. I was like, I kind of expected to be here much sooner.
Yeah.
And I was sort of judging myself and judging my progress. And I was just kind of like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. I don't know if I want to feel this way anymore.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah, it's like you just sort of, you have these expectations for yourself. And when you don't meet them, it's like, it doesn't feel good.
Were you getting ready for a pivot? Did you have another career in mind?
I certainly did. Because, well, the pandemic hit and I actually, right before the pandemic, sorry, I just want to give some backstory.
Let's do it.
Right before the pandemic, I booked my first national tour. And it was for Beautiful Carole King musical. And so I was really excited. I was like, okay, this is my trajectory is going up. I can't wait. This is my first tour and the rest is going to be history after this.
Yeah.
And then we had 2 weeks of rehearsal. And the week I was supposed to join the company in Texas was the week that everything got shut down.
No.
It was so insane. It was just like, okay, that's it. And 6 months later, like everything was still closed and everything was still canceled. And so then they canceled the tour. And yeah, I decided to lean on my liberal arts degree. And I started working at an ed tech startup.
Oh my God.
Where I was like doing community managing and sort of program managing. It was a company that sought to make business level education more affordable and accessible to people who might not have the time, the energy, or the money to go to business school.
For sure.
So I started working for that company and worked for them for like 2 years and, you know, had done some regional gigs while still maintaining that job because it was remote. And then I was thinking about a hard pivot when I got this audition notice for Anne Juliet. And it was like, I was actually going to go on vacation. I was like, okay, well, I'm going to go, my friends are going to go skiing and I'm going to go meet them in Tahoe. And like, when I get back, I'm going to think about really pivoting and going full time with this other career path. And I had to cancel my trip because the audition was on a Friday and they were like, okay, she has to come in. We're doing this. So It was for an emergency replacement. One of the
Oh, okay.
women in the company, she had an injury, so she had to leave.
Was this on Broadway or was this the Toronto run?
This was on Broadway.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. And so she had to take a leave of absence, and they were looking for someone to fill in for the Lady Capulet role and who covers Juliet. So, yeah, I was like, okay, let's do it. I'm going to audition. Funnily enough, one of my very good friends was the associate director on the project, Susanna. And then another friend from school, from Harvard, she was the associate music director.
Amazing.
Oh, it was like 3 Harvard people in the room when I went into audition, which literally never happens. Like, I've never been in a room where, like, the people behind the table they're usually all from Michigan or,
Of course.
So, yeah, I went in the room, felt super at ease because obviously it's like my friends behind the table for the first time, did all the material. They had us come back to dance. We danced for like an hour and a half. Then they had us stay to read and sing again. And yeah, and that was it. And then the rest, we waited for a couple days and I found out on a Sunday that I had booked it and rehearsal started on Tuesday.
Oh my God.
It's crazy. It was such a whirlwind.
Wow.
Yeah. So then I ended up needing to quit my job on the Monday because I was like, I can't do this and also a Broadway show. So
for sure.
Yeah, on the Monday, I put in my notice, and on Tuesday, I started rehearsal.
That's insane. Jeez.
It was so...
What did your company even say? You were just like, hey, I booked Broadway. I have to go. And they're like...
I really thought they were going to be so pissed, but everyone was actually just so happy for me.
Okay,
and
cool.
It was good that it was Broadway because they were like, oh my God.
Yeah.
I'm going to come see you and all this stuff.
For sure. I can only imagine that must be so weird for like people in normal jobs to just be like, oh, okay, no, you're leaving to go do this absolutely insane thing in my brain,
100%.
Wow. I love that.
It was hilarious. It was wild. But yeah, it was. I got a lot of support, which is really nice.
Did you have any like reality checks when you first joined the company and started that rehearsal process? Like did anything feel like exponentially different that you weren't expecting?
Yes. The one thing that comes to mind when you ask that question is obviously the Sondheim is a new theater. I just wasn't expecting everything to feel so big. I remember after the first week of rehearsal, they were like, let's take you to the theater one night to meet like some of the cast and just show you around. Like it was supposed to be like a casual, like, we're going to show you around, introduce you to people. And I remember walking around the theater and being like, oh my God, I'm never going to be able to like even remember where to go, much less perform this stuff on that stage. Like it just felt so big to me. And I remember I went home and cried that night.
Oh no.
I went home and I cried and I was like, I can't do that. Like I can't do this. I'm not even going to remember the way from the dressing room to the stage. Like there's no way I can do this. So that was one moment I vividly remember where I was like, yeah, it's not going to happen. So, and then I, got back to it because another element of it was I'm not a dancer.
Okay.
I'm not a dancer.
Yeah.
And so this was the most dancing I have ever done in my life. And so...
And it's complex too. Like it is capital D dancing.
Yeah, they be dancing.
Wow.
So being in rehearsals and like feeling like slightly inadequate and in my head was also, part of it. It's just like it was all too much.
What does that look like for like a non-dancer going into a dancer show? At least, especially since you were taking over, like, was it a lot of one-on-one? Was it, I don't know, was there expectations or whatnot? Because that I feel like is always like one of the biggest fears for those folks who are like, including myself, who are like, I don't dance at all, but like, I obviously would love to do this and can do some things with time and encouragement, but it doesn't seem, at least before, it doesn't seem like that kind of exists in that space,
Yeah. I think like trust that the people behind the table who are making the decisions are smart enough to know what they can teach you and what they can't. And so I think the dance call is what it is for a reason. And if you can show that you're able to master that dance call in that amount of time, or at least get close to it, like trust that they know what they're doing and that they can recognize your potential level.
For sure.
So, and I think like I didn't trust that. But the process basically was like, because I was a replacement, it was just me rehearsing with the associates. So the associate director, music director, and then the associate choreographer and the dance captain.
Gotcha.
And so it was a lot of like one-on-one time with them. And that was great. That was like a blessing because, they got to meet me at my level and I got to ask all the questions I wanted to ask. And, we would run what I needed to run. And I'm sure, in any other scenario where you're rehearsing with other people, they just make themselves so available. Like I had such a supportive dance captain. She was like, just the whole team was incredible. And they clearly believed in me and clearly like were really good teachers. They were really good at what they did. And so that at some point I was able to trust them enough. And I was like, okay, if I'm trusting them and they trust me, then maybe I should trust myself.
Yeah. It's like, I don't know. It's one of those things where it's so hard to grapple with. It's like, oh, they wanted me for a reason. And I need to remember that. But
100%.
Easier said than done,
Yeah. And a lot of times you're like, no, they made a huge mistake. Clearly, there's a huge oversight. Like, they made a huge mistake. But no, they know what they're, for the most part, like those teams know what they're doing. And they know that like it costs a shit ton of money to run a show.
Yeah.
And they're not going to like spend that money on you if they don't believe that you can do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's just hard to grapple with like the idea that I'm like, okay, well, like could I do this? Yes, but there's also someone that could step in, learn all of that choreo in one day as opposed to my entire week. And they would have to save all that time. Never mind actually the idea that, oh, wait, no, there are other things that I could do that they could probably want.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, okay, maybe it'll take you longer to learn the choreo, but maybe you're amazing at learning music and that's what and that's beneficial for this role and that, you know what I mean? So it's just like they've thought about all of the things.
Yeah. Crazy that we just have to expect them to do their job. Really, really wild.
So wild. Oh my God.
Truly, truly. Okay, so then you enter this giant space and you're doing the thing. I do remember you telling a story of your a little bit untraditional put in as Juliet, I will say, quote unquote, put in. What was that? What was that like?
Oh my God.
Probably so low key, right? Yeah.
Oh, so chill. Yeah. Truly the scariest moment of my life. So I started rehearsal on a Tuesday, basically had done 2 weeks of rehearsal. And this is me learning the Lady Capulet track as well as the Juliet track. But obviously my focus was the Lady Cap track because that's what I would be doing first.
Yeah.
That's what I would be doing every night, essentially. So yeah, I was also learning the Juliet track because that was the cover. But technically I was the second cover. I was the second Juliet.
Oh, God.
So obviously Tuesday to Tuesday, another Tuesday to Tuesday. And I'm rehearsing during the day. We actually rehearsed Lady Cap that day. And maybe at the end, we went through some Juliet stuff. And I was supposed to see Sweeney Todd that night.
Oh, my God.
I had tickets to see Sweeney Todd. I was so excited. And yeah, I left rehearsal, went home, changed, and was on, like waiting for the train. I think it was like 6:45.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, I was waiting for the train to get to Sweeney Todd. And I get a call on the platform from the stage manager. And he's like, hey, Kim. And the stage manager, he's so lovely. He's just like, he's very calm. He's very like sweet. And so he calls me. He's like, hey, Kim, like, how do you feel about going on as Juliet tonight? I was like, huh?
You're like, actually, I'm seeing Sweeney Todd. I'm so sorry.
Yeah. Oh, David, I'm so sorry, but I'm seeing Sweeney tonight.
Yeah. Thank you, though. Yeah, thanks for thinking of me. XOXO.
XOXO, I'm dead. And I was like, oh, what do you mean? And he was like, well, Lorna's out with a bad sickness, and then Rachel's also got like strep throat or something.
God.
So we have no more Juliets, and either you go on or we cancel the show.
Oh my God. No pressure.
No pressure. So I was like, okay, sure. And he was like, okay, great. Like, come straight to the theater and we'll start doing things. We'll get you prepped. I hadn't even tried on my costumes. Like, I didn't
Oh
even
my
know
God.
what fit like. So yeah, I went to the theater. I called some people. I called like my besties and my now fiance, and they were all like, "Wait, is this safe? Like, have you done any of the lips? Have you done like?" Oh. And I was like, I don't know. We'll see.
Stay
So
tuned.
yeah,
Wow.
got to the theater. We had like our first full cast on stage spacing that night before the show. And then, tried on some costumes. We ran through the quick changes because there are a lot of quick changes for Juliet. And then we did the like roar balcony. We tried that. We were like, let's not do the chandelier tonight because
Probably a good call.
Probably a good call. Just hang out on the bar. And then, they held the show because we had to do a bunch of stuff. And I think they held the show for like 30 minutes, 40 minutes or so.
Oh my God.
And then we did it. I just went on and did the thing. And that was my Broadway debut, my Broadway principal debut. Yeah, it was crazy.
That's insane. That's legitimately insane. Wow.
It was a wild time.
Good for you, though. You did you feel, I mean, this feels like a silly question, but did you feel prepared enough, or was this completely daunting and out of this realm?
I think I felt prepared enough. I was like, I've done my homework. We rehearsed some of this stuff, and like, I just needed to have fun and just not worry about the rest. And, like in that situation, the pressure's kind of off. People aren't really expecting much.
Yeah.
They're just kind of like, anything you do on that stage is amazing. So that was helpful too. I was like, anything that I do will be like amazing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because of the circumstances. And so that put me at ease. And I like, it was honestly one of the times that I felt best doing it because it just felt like I wasn't thinking about messing up. I was just, you know what I mean? When you don't think about like,
you didn't really have a choice,
Yeah, you don't have. That's exactly right. You don't have a choice.
Heard. Also, had you been rehearsing with any of these people yet, or were these still kind of strangers that you were just doing an entire show with?
They were strangers. Ben, who was Romeo, I had never rehearsed with him, and I was like, we had the kiss and everything, and it was just like, it was also real. We were like,
I was gonna say, does that help at all? Like, you're literally just in a story that you didn't.
A little bit, yeah.
Wow.
It was like felt. Yeah, so it was so fun. It was like surprisingly fun. It was scary at first, but it was surprisingly fun once I got the hang of it because the whole building was there to support me and lift me up. And the audience too. The audience, like, and they go out and do a speech. Mel, who was Angelique, she went out and did like a little speech because they were holding the show. And so they let the audience know why they were holding the show. And so like the audience was in on it. And they were just like loving it. You know what I mean?
That's amazing. Yeah, that must have been electric. God.
Yeah. So it was a lot of fun.
Good stuff. That's amazing. Congratulations also.
Thank
still, you. And you have since done another Broadway show. You were part of The Notebook on the Broadway.
Yes.
What was that like? That like stepping into a piece that is like actually iconic in so many people's vernacular.
It was really special. It was like, I think at first I was kind of like, I didn't know what to expect. Yeah. And while I love the movie so much, I also think it's like you kind of associate The Notebook as being like, you kind of associate it with like, oh, it's like a chick flick. It's like, you know what I mean?
The epitome of crier movies.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I feel like what this production brought so much depth to the story in that it really focused on the Olders and their story and it focused on, how you connect with someone who has dementia and how so I think like it was a really deep and meaningful experience because the work felt really good to do and I really respect everyone on that creative team and all of the writers and also working with so many women creators was really exciting to me. So it was just really special. It kind of like, aside from the source material being so beloved, I feel like what was special for me was what we created as a group of artists.
For sure.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That rocks.
Yeah, it was great.
And now the realm of fun employment.
Yeah.
You know, are you one of those? Are you itching for something else, or are you enjoying a nice break right now?
I am enjoying a nice break, but I feel like in like 2 weeks, I'm going to be like,
okay,
get me a job.
Yeah, I was going to say, what is your time frame of being able to chill out for a second?
Yeah. I've been having a good time. My family's on Staten Island, so I've been seeing them a lot. And it's also just nice to, like, in the Notebook on the Broadway schedule, I neglect all my friends.
Yeah, well, I mean, you also had 2 shows back to back. You've been going and going and going and going.
Yeah, it's been wild. So it's been nice to like be like, I'm going out for dinner on a Wednesday night. You know what I mean? I'm going to a movie. So that's been really nice. And then,
Now having the retrospect of like remembering what your life was and seeing what your life is like now, do you feel as though you have any like kind of plans on how to adapt your social situation when you are back on a Broadway schedule, or like any form of work-life balance, I guess, in general?
Yeah, I think now that I feel comfortable with the idea of like being in a Broadway show, I think because it was new to me, I was like, I have to do a really good job and I have to be only focused on this. I feel like now I know the ropes a little bit, and I feel like that will allow me to like do other things. Not even just socially, I think even like hobby wise, like I really want to do, when I'm working again, I really want to carve out some time for myself to do things that just bring me joy.
Yeah.
That just make me happy and then don't have a like financial output tied to them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's such the big thing too, where it's like, oh, I really enjoy doing this thing. Like I like embroidering or like knitting or whatever. And then you're like, I could theoretically make money off of this.
Yeah.
I could theoretically sell these things, but I can't. I can't do that. This is something that brings me joy,
100%.
Yeah.
Like that's like writing a lot. Writing is so cathartic for me. And I've been working on a short film that I'm really excited about.
Nice.
But a lot of times I'm like, I take the enjoyment out of it because I'm like, okay, well, where's this short film going to go? That's going to impact how I make it and how I film it. And I need to have the best of the, and it's like, no, it's just a hobby. It's a fun thing that I'm doing. And like, it's a way that I choose to express myself and work out like past traumas.
Yeah.
And so I don't need to like be thinking about where this is going to go.
Totally.
Right now,
Have you worked in film and television before?
I haven't. I mean, I've done like some background stuff. Like I did a background thing for Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, and you can like see like a quarter of my face in the shot. But that's the extent to which I've in TV film. Yeah.
I mean, you still like you learn so much from background work too. Especially, I don't know. I didn't go to film school or anything, but I have made more money doing film and TV than I have theater at this point in time, which is crazy to me. But it's literally just, I did background and I can see how things work now. Like I understand this environment. It's so different. It is so different.
And that's kind of what I love about doing background. It's like, it's kind of a crash course.
Yes.
Without any of the pressure.
Exactly. You get to get the education. You get to be on TV and no stakes are on yourself. You just have to be there as a body. That is all they are concerned about,
100%.
Yeah. It's really, it's awesome. I recommend everyone out there do some background work. Also, it's just everywhere too. So like if there's ever something filming in your city or town or whatever, like do it. Why the heck not?
And they like love to call you back because it's like they have all your sizes and your costumes already. So it's beneficial for them to like keep you in mind for other background stuff.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah. 10 out of 10. Y'all go do that.
Do it.
Kim, do you have any other words of wisdom that you want to share with the people? Anything else for the little Kims out there in the world?
Oh, the little Kims. I mean, I would just say it sounds cliche, but it just really speaks to a lot of the insecurities that I had starting my career in this industry.
Mhm.
And it's like, you are enough.
Yep.
You are enough. I really just have to repeat that to myself, because you just have to show up in the room as yourself, and somebody will connect with you.
Yep.
Even like, you will find the person that you feel most comfortable with, and there have been so many times where I've like tried to be someone else, or tried to like put on some sort of like vibe that I think other people want to see, and it's just not. People see right through that.
Exactly.
And yeah, I just need to like always constantly remind myself like I am enough, and being my most authentic self in the room is what is going to make the most sense and make people see me the most.
Yeah.
So yeah.
There's always going to theoretically be more things that you could do or more skills that you could have, but that is not what you have in the moment. So why worry about that? You know,
100%.
you are bringing yourself to the table, and that is enough. There you go.
That is enough. Yeah.
Oh, there you go, folks. You are enough. You are loved. We are rooting for you. We are your biggest supporters, and you can be our biggest supporters by finding us on Patreon. Folks, that is patreon.com/BA to Broadway. Your general disclaimer, we are not gatekeeping any vital information on there. That is just for fun, silly bonus content with all of the people that I coerce to be on this show with me. Just little looks into our lives and stuff like that. So go check us out over there. As always, you can find us on most social media platforms at BA2Broadway. Kim, where can folks find you if you want to be found?
Oh, yes. You can find me on Instagram at Kim Onah. He's very creative, right? But yeah, find me on Instagram. I also have a website, kimonah.com. So check me out there too.
Amazing.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Brennan.
Thank you so much for being here. This was absolutely lovely. This is also kind of the first time we've ever like really talked in person too. So this has been such a delight. I really appreciate it.
Me too.
And you are welcome back anytime.
Thank you.
And until next time, folks, bye. From BA to Broadway is created, produced, and edited by Brennan Stefanik, music by Dylan Kaufman, and cover art by Jordan Vongsithi.